I'm Pastor Dave, and this is Vacation Bible Stories with Pastor Dave. And we are doing today the crossing of the River Jordan. The Israelites received the law of God on Mount Sinai and then wandered through the desert for 40 years and then finally came to the Promised Land where God was leading them and entered the Promised Land by crossing the Jordan there at the city of Jericho. The River Jordan was at flood stage. The swiftly flowing waters were treacherous, and there was no bridge or ford. And yet God had told the people that today they would cross into the Promised Land. Joshua told everyone to gather their belongings, and he sent the priests ahead carrying the Ark of the Covenant. And as soon as their feet touched the water, it stopped flowing. It made a huge wall. Now, dry paths stretched before the priests, and they made their way to the middle of the riverbed. And then the people of Israel began to cross safely over. Not a drop of water touched them. There were so many of them that it took all day to cross, but at nightfall, the children of Israel had finally arrived into the land promised to them by God for so many years. Before the priests finished crossing the river, Joshua had each man from each of the 12 tribes of Israel lift a stone from the middle of the riverbed where the priests had been standing. As soon as the priests stepped onto the shore, the river came crashing down once more. Then Joshua collected the 12 stones and he built them into a mound as a reminder to the people of how the waters of the river had stopped before the Ark of the Covenant and how God had brought them safely across it and into the Promised Land. The Israelites laid siege to Jericho, which is the nearest city. No one went out and no one came in, and within the walls the people were terrified. And then God told Joshua, I have delivered Jericho into your hands. March around the city once with all of your armed men. Do this for 6 days. Have 7 priests carry trumpets in front of the ark. And on the 7th day, march around the city 7 times with the priests blowing their trumpets. And when you hear them sound a long blast on the trumpet, have all the people give a loud shout. And then the walls of the city will collapse and Jericho will be yours. For 6 days, the Israelites marched around the city just as God had told them. And on the 7th day, they marched around Jericho 7 times. On the last time, when the priest sounded the trumpet blast, Joshua commanded the people, now shout, for the Lord has given us the city. And when the trumpet sounded, the people raised a mighty cry, and the city walls trembled and then collapsed before them. The soldiers charged in and took the city. Only Rahab and her family were spared, for the city and everything in it was burned except for the silver, the gold, and the bronze, and the iron. And the story of how the Lord had helped Joshua take Jericho spread throughout the land.